guys are like kind of a tough act to follow. So I have a speech written mainly because if I don't follow talking points, I could talk for like hours. I want to say I'm really honored, and I was kind of surprised, but also, to be asked to speak here. But more than that, I want to make it really clear that I know I'm blessed beyond belief to be here, because as we've heard, it doesn't always end that way. I could have very easily wound up, dead, or, the alternative would be maybe I wound up in prison. Things could have gone differently. After a long battle, and with the help and support of my family, friends, the wonderful ladies at the domestic violence shelter, I was finally, able to get out and start living again. And the statistics have already been mentioned, so there's no reason to go into that. But I know that, I think a quarter of all the calls that go into dispatch are for intimate, partner-related violence calls. So that's quite a lot. And I think 15 million people a year suffer from some sort of domestic violence. Anyway, enough about the statistics. I'm so nervous. The statistics and stuff. We can all stand here and talk about that. But I guess I'll tell you a little bit about what I went through. So I think this part's pretty common. I don't ever recall a time in my life where I was in what one might consider a healthy relationship. I didn't even know what that was. I think I don't know if it was maybe it was on purpose or subconscious, but I think I actually sought out really controlling and just jealous people. I didn't grow up with a dad. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I kind of think it can. And I think maybe the next best thing for, someone like me would be a man who could, fill that void. It's important, though, that we also recognize that domestic violence doesn't really have a one-size-fits-all. It affects people in all walks of life. For some people, it's emotional and verbal torture, and it's being beaten down that way. And then for other people, it's severe physical abuse, where you know that you're gonna die, and then somehow you just don't. You get through it. And then for others, it's all of that, My last really combative relationship, and I say combative because I wasn't, and some of the people out here know me, I'm not really the type of person, it's even hard for me sometimes to call myself a survivor, because I'm not really the type of person to just let someone beat me. And I think that probably maybe even put me in more danger, because I would fight back. But anyway, there were a lot of really early signs that I didn't pay attention to. Before there was ever any physical stuff, it was verbal, like I said, it was emotional. It was a lot of talking down. I was talked down to a lot. My self-esteem was way down here. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Some of the most, the painful memories, though, are the ones where our kids were there and they saw, they saw stuff that they shouldn't have seen, and they were removed from care for, fighting in front of them and whatnot. That's extremely painful, because you can't really take that back. And sometimes, I can still close my eyes and I'm haunted by their screams and the terror in their eyes, and it was pretty bad. I think the beginning of the end for me came in 2011. I had been in this relationship for probably almost, I guess by the time it was over, a little over a decade. That was when we had a full blowout. It resulted in me being arrested and charged with some domestic violence stuff. I had 2 black eyes, bruises from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. The kids, like I said, were taken from our care. I think that was the first time I went to the shelter. But I was so in love with him. And that sounds crazy, right? I was so in love. I don't really think it was love now, looking back. I think it was some sort of addiction or codependency to a person. And so I kept telling myself, we have our problems, we have our struggles, but we can go to counseling, And so I kept doing that over and over. I kept leaving. I would go to the shelter. I would learn about all the times, up to 8 times I think that you leave before maybe it'll stick. For me, I think it was about 4 times. Sorry. Anyway, he had a substance abuse issue that was really bad, and I think part of it was that I kept telling myself that if I could only get him to get clean, we wouldn't fight so much, and none of that was true. That was all not true. I needed to change myself, and I couldn't, be worried about him. So again, I wound up at the domestic violence shelter, and a lot of the ladies that are no longer there, but I remember them very well, along with Carla, were just amazing. They gave me, I could come there with nothing, and believe me, I had nothing, the clothes on my back, and I could come there, and they would get me eyeglasses, clothing, anything I needed, restraining orders. I can't cover all the services that the shelter provides. But I owe a huge bit of my success story to the domestic violence shelter. Like I said, it took me 4 times until it finally stuck. I remember how I'd be sure I was done, only to find myself running off with him again. And then here's the Thanksgiving. The very last time I ran back to him was on Thanksgiving Day. I left the shelter just before we had this huge dinner planned. Super mad about that. His tears and apologies were so sincere. I just felt like I couldn't give up on this, again, great love. And again, I realized, now that wasn't love, but at the time I thought it was. On Christmas Day 2014, it had been a month since I left the shelter. Things got really bad very quickly, and my adult son intervened and told me that I had 5 minutes to pack a bag and leave with him, or he was going to kill my boyfriend. I could tell he was serious, and the last thing I wanted was my son to go to prison forever over me. So I packed a bag, and I went away to South Lake Tahoe for 6 months, where I got a job. However, I still wasn't quite convinced, and I maintained phone contact with the guy. By June, he had convinced me to come visit. He was clean, he promised. I came back again. I didn't realize that the 6 months away from him had given me something I lost a long time ago. It was self-worth. I had developed, over that 6-month period, a higher opinion of myself. I never even knew it until that final day. He started some kind of fight with me after only a week back together. This time though, he pushed my mom. And that was it. I called the sheriff's office and I had him, escorted off my mom's property, and I was done. But the thing is, how did I know this time? How did I know I was done? I was done all the other times, right? Well, this time I knew because this warmth came over me, and it's really, really hard to explain, but it was over. I didn't want to fix him anymore. I wanted peace. I haven't had contact with him since. From there, I got a job right here in Siskiyou in South Rica, as Carla said. I saved some money, rented a little house, I bought a used car, but now I have a brand new car. Eventually, I rented a bigger house so my mom could come live with me, and I'm still at the same job. I never pictured that this is where I would be in my life, and if anyone had told me back then that my future was where I am today, I would have laughed in their faces. Because for me, there was no escaping. I had no hope. And today, my life is filled with joy, and I'm surrounded by people who love me and people I love. And I've even managed to have my criminal charges expunged, so that's pretty cool. So today, I'm not just surviving, I'm living. There is hope. So many people are still where I was when I thought I'd never be able to breathe without that relationship. And so many people will continue to go back and back and back, expecting different results, right? But they're just gonna get kicked right back down again. I'm here to tell you that if you're suffering this, you are worthy, you are important, your life matters, the lives of your children and their well-being matter. It's hard, I know, but you can be free. Just don't stop asking for help and don't give up on yourself. And again, thank you for having me.